Hotels are places where people seek peace, comfort, and privacy. We go there on business trips, for vacations, or simply to spend the night in an unfamiliar city. But behind the closed doors of hotel rooms, the darkest dramas sometimes unfold, often featured in newspapers and documentaries. Today, we'll discuss 5 of the most shocking and mysterious real-life hotel crimes. These stories are filled with secrets, inexplicable details, and unanswered questions. The Mystery of Elisa Lam, Hotel Cecil, Los Angeles, 2013. Elisa Lam was born in Canada to Hong Kong immigrants. She was an ordinary student but suffered from bipolar disorder and depression. Her parents knew about her problems and were concerned, so Elisa constantly called them from her trip to reassure them. In January 2013, she embarked on a tour of the United States. One of her stops was Los Angeles, where she checked into the Cecil Hotel, a place with a dark reputation. The hotel was known for suicides, murders, and even links to serial killers like Richard Ramirez. On January 31st, Elisa's parents raised the alarm when their daughter stopped communicating. Police launched a search, and a few days later, they released a video from the elevator showing the girl behaving strangely. Pressing every button at once, peering out into the hallway, and making abrupt hand gestures, as if speaking to someone invisible. The video went viral, sparking thousands of theories, from stalking by a maniac to supernatural forces. Elisa's body was found only 2 weeks later, on the roof, inside a water tank. Water from the tank had already begun to leak into the faucets and showers of residents. Residents complained of an unpleasant taste and weak water pressure. When police climbed onto the roof, they found the girl's naked body, her clothes floating nearby. The medical examination revealed no traces of drugs and that the cause of death was drowning. But the question remains, How did Elisa manage to get into a sealed tank, the lid of which would be physically difficult for one person to lift? Why didn't the roof alarm go off? And why was her behavior in the elevator so eerily strange? This case remains one of the most eerie mysteries of the 21st century, and the Hotel Cecil has acquired an even more sinister reputation. The Death of George Reeves, Beverly Hills Hotel, 1959. George Reeves was an actor known to millions of viewers as Superman from the 1950s television series. His life seemed successful: popularity, recognition, money. But behind the glitz, there was drama. Reeves grew tired of the Superman role. He was no longer taken seriously as an actor and no longer received offers. His personal life was also complicated. He had an affair with a woman named Toni Mannix, the wife of a powerful MGM producer. When Reeves tried to break up with her, the relationship became strained. On the night of June 16, 1959, Reeves was at home with his fiancée, Leonora Lemon, and friends. They said he went up to the bedroom around midnight, and soon afterward, a gunshot rang out. His guests found his body lying dead on the bed, a pistol lying nearby. The police quickly declared it a suicide, but too many things didn't add up. There were no traces of gunshot residue on Reeves's hands, and at the scene, there were 2 more bullets in the floor and wall. Why were there multiple shots fired? Why was the gun so far away from his hand? Journalists wrote that Hollywood criminal circles may have intervened, and the producer's wife, Toni Mannix, allegedly threatened to ruin the actor's life. Others believed that Reeves was genuinely depressed and committed suicide. To this day, the death of Superman remains a mystery. Murder, suicide, or a carefully concealed act of revenge?
Why don't I sound like Superman? I look like Superman. Why don't I sound like Superman? I look like Superman. Why don't I sound like Superman?
The Murder of Sylvia Likens, Indiana, 1965, Horror Hotel. Although the tragedy itself occurred in the house, it is directly connected to the hotel business, since the main culprit, Gertrude Banaszewski, owned a room that was often rented out to tenants, and the victim, Sylvia, perceived it as a temporary shelter, a mini-hotel. 16-year-old Sylvia Likens and her sister were left with a friend of their parents while they worked. Sylvia lived in a building that resembled a dormitory. Neighbors, teenagers, and children all came over, but it was there that she found herself in hell. Gertrude turned her life into torture. She was beaten, starved, and humiliated. Neighbors and even her own children joined in the abuse. Sylvia was held captive, forced to sleep on the bare floor. Ultimately, in 1965, she died from her injuries. Why is this case considered a hotel crime? Because the house where it happened was officially registered as a temporary residence. Journalists called it a house of horrors. The murder shocked America, and Gertrude received a life sentence. Over the years, this story has inspired directors. Several films have been made about the case, the most famous being An American Crime, 2007, which depicts in detail the horrors that Sylvia was subjected to.
Banishevsky told the parole board she's a born-again Christian. She burst into tears when asked to talk about her crime.
I can't do it, and I'm sorry. That's all I can say. And I ask him to forgive me. That's all I can tell you.
The Mystery of the Isdalen Woman, Norway, 1970. In November 1970, hikers stumbled upon the charred body of a woman in the mountains near Bergen, Norway. Nearby lay bottles of alcohol, sleeping pills, and personal belongings. At first glance, it looked like a suicide, but the more police dug into the details, the stranger the case became. The woman checked into various hotels under false names. When registering, she listed various nationalities: Belgian, French tourist, Swiss citizen. At each hotel, she was described differently: elegant, impeccably dressed, speaking several languages, but she never left her real documents. All the tags on her clothes had been cut off to make it impossible to identify the manufacturer. A suitcase found at the train station contained wigs, perfume, unusual prescriptions, and encrypted notes. Investigators quickly began to suspect the woman might have been a Cold War spy. The cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning and severe burns, but the question remained, was it suicide or a carefully staged murder? After all, the woman had bruises and injuries that couldn't be explained by a fire. To this day, the identity of the Isdalen woman remains unknown. Police have reopened the case several times and conducted DNA tests, but her origins remain a mystery. For Norway, it has become one of the darkest and most terrifying mysteries of the 20th century. The murder of Anile, Yale University, 2009, Sterling Hall, converted into hotel apartments. Anile was a 24-year-old Yale University student, a smart and promising woman with a bright future ahead of her. She was preparing for her wedding when, in September 2009, she disappeared from the university's Sterling Hall. Initially, this building was used as a scientific building, but some floors were converted into apartments for temporary accommodation for students and professors. Essentially, it served as a hotel for research staff. 5 days later, Annie's body was found behind a wall in a utility room. She was murdered by a colleague, Raymond Clark, a lab technician. The motive was both banal and horrific. Clark was obsessed with her and couldn't bear to be left alone. The case shocked America. Annie Lou was called the future of science, a woman with grandiose plans, and her death was a tragedy. The killer received a life sentence, and Sterling Hall was long referred to as a ghost building. This case was particularly notable for the security it exposed on university campuses. It turned out that dozens of employees had access to technical rooms, and the security system was practically a sham. Furthermore, Clark had a reputation for being aggressive and hot-tempered, yet complaints against him were ignored. Many believed Annie's death could have been prevented if the university administration had taken the warning signs more seriously. The story generated a huge media response, spreading across the country. Journalists called the crime murder within the walls of academia, and Annie's colleagues long pushed for changes to Yale's security system. All these stories show that even where we expect comfort and safety, true darkness can lurk. A closed door doesn't necessarily mean protection, and the familiar surroundings of a hotel can instantly become the scene of the most terrible tragedy. These stories remind us that sometimes reality is far more terrifying than any movie. If you're interested in stories like these, subscribe to the channel, like it, and let us know in the comments which of these mysteries you found the creepiest. More investigations and mysteries await, ones that will make you look at familiar places in a new way.